Brotherhood is a thread in the web of life. Some of those threads are cut, others become tangled, and yet some remain stronger as mortal life continues. It is simply the way it has always been. For Ben, Edgar, and Mace, their threads of brotherhood are wound around Surf City donuts, the memory of their father, James, and their own desires. Ben, of course, is the most like James. Patrons will sometimes comment about his whistle, not realizing Levi Black's whistle was much closer, nearly the same melodies even. Of course, Levi has been gone now for at least a generation, so it's very excusable to have forgotten him and his whistle. Some might even say it's a mercy for those with long memories. Edgar is not very much like James, nor his mother. James always did admire Edgar and was very proud of him. He boasted about Edgar's muscles, the power, the strength, the kind of thing you need when molding large quantities of dough. Edgar was praised and supported, and some think James' death happened so close to loss of Edgar's boxing career was as much about a death from a broken heart as it was about a heart attack. But the truth is much more delicate. It is not, dear listeners, as it is here, so black and white. And even some who watch say even we are not as black and white as we appear. Now, Mace is nothing like James was. Mace favors the female line of the Black family. It is a rare thing, but a thing which haunts him. Not because it is a disgrace or a disappointment, but because the women of the Black family line were more in tune with things not of the physical worlds. Indeed, in some ways, Mace even looks like his mother, as a sort of androgynous reminder of the potential of the Black family line. Mace is elongated, and his wild raven hair defies a testament, as they were both her own notable features. Sarah Black was a beauty. Unfortunately, Mace is too wrapped up in terror to access the terrible and wonderful beauty within himself. Now, that is not to say Mace is weak, but is simply cursed. Having worked at the donut shop as a child and having walked away in search of life, Mace may not be as physically strong as Ben, but has a constitution and solid enough base that when given the chance, he could potentially be stronger than at least Edgar. And so it comes to pass that the longer Mace stays in Surf City in his ancestral home, and the days are intermittently too long and much too short to count, the longer he works again with Ben and Edgar without any sort of familial referee, the more the old rivalries and grudges surface. For instance, an arm wrestling competition with no real perceived merit or winner, simply a competition, a test of strength, of character, of private daring, jockeying for position within the remaining family, and it begins in a teasing way. Mace has yet to meet Ben's boyfriend and wishes to. Well, now this is a bad idea, but Mace does not know that yet. Much like the arm wrestling match, biceps and hearts will become overworked and bruised upon meeting, upon reality, and it will be a terrible devolution of an already fraught brotherly thread. Edgar enters the kitchen with its scuffed terracotta floors and its smell of oil and sugar to the scene of an in progress match. He clears his throat, which is hard to do with the sugary soda coating it. His breakfast to calm the ache left by the still missing rage and his VR supply that demands a substitute. And for Edgar, that sugar, concentrated, liquid, in a cool and cylindrical bottle nearly as long as his forearm, but about half as thick. Mason Bennett ignore him, continuing their psychic and physical argument, their fists clenched and their noses wrinkled, brow nearly on brow and eyes flashing. The longer Ben perseveres, the closer he comes to losing. He might have the strength, but Mace has the staying power. Edgar rolls his eyes and goes to the clipboard, seeing what deliveries the day will bring. He munches absent-mindedly on an errand cruller as he reads, tuning in and out, and then curses. Come on, don't make me deliver to Swan. Ben grunts. You like delivering. But to Swan, he'll try to rope me into a pyramid scheme again. Bro, you gotta go. I'll give you $5. No thanks, Base Pants. I've almost got this. Besides, I'm not a people person. You're too hard on yourself, Ben hisses, his hand shaking. Give up now, he snaps a little. If I end up $3,000 in debt and with half a garage of Herbalife stocked, I'm blaming both of you. Edgar snipes and leaves the room in search of those ubiquitous donut boxes stamped with the Surf City logo, and to see how much of the order is still left to be billed. Now left alone to their own devices and just a little sweaty, the grips of the two brothers slip and the arm wrestle is pronounced a tie. Seriously, you won't tell me about your boyfriend? Who is it? It can't be that embarrassing. Ben demurs. Why do you want to know about my social life? I don't ask you who you take to bed. Well, I don't take anybody to bed, and neither do you. And don't I know it? Ben snorts in response. Hard living in the Black family mansion. Not that Ben has not brought in truest before, at least, but dear listeners, remember, mortals soothe their own ego with the invention of the little white lie. It is an adapted evil from the denizens of trouble, but it has been found to be useful for the occasional safety or inspirational purpose. We have a copy of Xanadu available for instruction should you need a reminder about the little white lie. And Joe, on the other end of the charge file desk, will help you with that and any resources you have need of, which are not a charge folder. Mace turns away, but nods. You don't know the half of it. Come on, we're not doing that again. I just don't like the idea of Grandpa down the hall knowing that I brought a boyfriend in. I know he's not alive, but listen, why you gotta bust my balls, huh? Why can't we just talk about something else, like a new recipe or something? And Mace simply shakes his head at Ben. Fine, but if you're embarrassed of me, you should feel okay to just say so. I get it. I'm the family weirdo. It's not a secret. People might not know the whole truth, but they know older brother. It's not that. Ben sighs. It's not that at all. I'd punch somebody that looked at you funny just on principle, but you have to trust me, Mace. What is it then, Ben? Oh, they stare at each other for a long moment, searching in each other's eyes for truth. Ben's face becomes impassive yet cheerful, which is harder than it sounds to pull off. Now, today, the Cosmic would like to remind you about the word Chiron. On the Earth of today, the Chiron is part of a symptom of activity at unprecedented levels. Your charge may either choose to swim in the stream, as a salmon would, or your charge may choose to dig in their heels and move slower than others. Use the scale found in your charge guide in its properly placed manila folder in the charge room with a beautiful checkerboard pattern floor and two-person checkout desk to be your guide to success in your work. The Cosmic would also like to remind you to familiarize yourself with those in your charge and their favorite eponymous sayings, like those in the bulletin above. Don't let having died centuries ago keep you from your duties. Being lovelorn and temporarily inconvenienced is not the greatest ache, though perhaps Ben's need for truest would disagree. A larger ache still is a dream unfulfilled, as many have, and not just the souls in Surf City. The desire to know more, the desire to fight or flee or to know another carnally. Those aches are, even then, only of medium wounds, wounds that mortals inflict on each other. A great artist called them slings and arrows of war, an outrageous foretuning. There is a deep ache, though, in Julie's apartment, and it is one of the most troubling. There is much pain abounding, but a large portion of it is focused in Rage's hand. He is tacked up against a wall, and the searing pain and adrenaline are more than even VR can eradicate. His mind swims in and out of consciousness as he detoxes. He does not know, as he wakes up and falls back asleep, how long he's been there, or how long he may be alive for. For a moment of lurid insanity, he wonders if there's been a kinky act he'd forgotten he'd participated in. That he's just at home, but it doesn't smell like home, and he can't reach his phone, so it doesn't feel like home either. He aches for a thread to be cut, a thread between him and Edgar which angers him to Surf City, to the earth itself. Now, dear listeners, we all know that threads can be reforged in unique circumstances, and even a deep and moving change can create a new thread. But Rage does not have the language to know this. He does not have the language to say that he yearns for Edgar's company, for Edgar helped him to forget his pain. A thought, if it crosses his wandering universal mind, should scare Rage to the core of his being. He has become an instrumental part of a ritual for Julie. As he awakens, for good this time, the endorphins dulled just enough. He notices candles in various implements at various heights on various surfaces. There's no acrid smoke though, so they are freshly lit. There is somehow both too much blood and too little blood in places. Some portions of the room, meant for furniture but bearing little save for a pushback coffee table or an ugly green chair, are empty. The whole place feels empty, too empty, but not stale. It is filled with activity, and that's mostly Julie, walking about, muttering to herself, preparing. Rage can finally focus in on the blood. He sees it in circles and swirls and writing and insignias not meant for human eyes, incomprehensible, nearly floating. What the hey, he barks out, cries out, as though she might change her mind. Don't squirm, she orders. I'll squirm if I want. What's your problem? What are you doing? Do I look like a carp to you? Yes, a small carp for a much bigger one. Her voice is flat, somehow both in and between realms. There is a focus to her as she moves and adjusts. You wouldn't. Why not? I'm not worth anything. I'm not pure. Not looking for pure, Julie sneers, and there's just a bit of a twitch at her lip as though casting all of Rage's sins on his altar and then saying, so what? You'd better not summon anything that's going to eat me. Why? Julie asks. What have you got to live for? I'm the only thing keeping the vamp population in check here, lady, he lies. Don't do anything. Shut, you're the archer later, aren't you? Christ! Don't take the Lord's name in vain, she cautions flatly. Rage lets loose in response with a string of curses, and then, what, did I sell you a bad batch of VR or something? Her quiet is answer enough. Panic ensues. Whatever it is, he tries bargaining, and she counters. Whatever it is needs to be much stronger than what you can offer. That's all. It'll all be over soon. Candles flicker. Some words are spoken. The sound of a shaft notching into a bow, and finally, smoke from the candles. The cosmic will not let us repeat some of the words that Rage uttered, dear listeners, but as if on cue, we do have a message from the hosts of Trouble for whom some of those words are quite welcome. They remind us today that capitalism exists, and there's nothing we can do about it without meddling in the composition of the mortal's universe. It is a sullen potter's field of ideology. It tires and quickens them to trouble. It creates in our charges dullness, insecurity, inability, paralyzing fear. It is a greedy, all consuming faction that they are quite proud of. And they intone in some words that it is for us to fear as well. I apologize for this disturbance, dear listeners. Smoke is the cousin to Fog, almost a brother, but not quite. And currently, Fog seems to roll through the ballroom that Edgar enters. But it doesn't bother Edgar. He's used to smoke from smoke machines and dry ice, and even in his cigarettes that used to hold VR. In Surf City, there are two places to have medium sized events and no places to have large scale ones, and so Edgar finds himself at an event. Now, for those who are new to this channel, the city charter of Surf City of 1875 banned large scale events for reasons that cannot or should not be repealed. And also, there are simply not enough citizens any longer to qualify for anything over a medium sized event. The first place to have an event is the Surf City Convention Center. They have gray, movable walls in sequentially ordered A, B, and C rooms. Each room offers a large rectangular window cut with a length of black rubber material to keep it from touching the white plaster walls. There, the carpets are faded and most of the tables are steady, save for the wobbly one. They are circular tables. Martha makes the coffee for the convention center. Some of the tables you will find also have small coffee cup rings on them, but they are faded enough. Don't let them bother you. Martha has a thread all her own to be pulled, to be revealed. Martha, for all her cable knit sweaters and soft pastel shades, is filled with the sort of soft darkness that even she cannot remember. The wrinkled folds of her face are not lifelines as many thinks, and in her final years she may come to regret what she cannot remember. The other room for events is the one Edgar is in now, at the Surf City Mayor's office. To call it grand would be a mistake, but to mistake it as homely is a deadly thing. The mayor's building is a place that lives in the present and in the past. It shows the glory of the first five families in mural form. It shows prowess and promise. In winter, it is warm for choir practices, and in summer, it is cool enough to shade for watermelon eating competitions and pie blue ribbon awardings. There are bits of chipped tile, and in some places, as now, some of the candle wax drips. Drip, drip, drip. Louis Swan meets Edgar Black as Edgar arrives with a retinue of donut boxes. He recognizes that the fog he sees is not fog, but the word does not leap to mind immediately, nor does scent. He does not know it is incense of a sepulchral nature. Louis Swan is a man that is tall and thin. He has a smile that is far too wide and a nose far too sharp and beak-like to be completely human. There is something wrong with Louis Swan. If you were to say, what man has both too much money and too much common sense? Louis Swan might be the picture you point to in that particular dictionary. He is dressed up here as a relic dandy with frilly cuffs and has pulled back his hair into a ponytail. His hair is almost so black that it shines blue in reflection. The most disturbing part of Louis Swan Edgar finds is the eyes. And it's hard to say what exactly is disturbing about them. And the incense clouds even that fear. It makes Edgar feel as though he is alone, but also being watched, as though a million eyes are peeking from between the mists, between the tall golden candelabras that Louis has lit and set in space. The mayor's conference room and the whole of the public hall does not have windows. It does have it does have decorative pomegranates, though, and Louis does like that about this space. Edgar Black, a delight. You ordered donuts, Edgar counters, not trusting his voice. Doesn't make it less delightful to see you than for a transaction, hmm? You're not in a rush, are you? Actually, now it wouldn't be neighborly to be in a rush, Louis flirts. And I do consider us good neighbors. Edgar. His voice has a lilt to it, a hiss almost. To call it a snake's hiss would be incorrect. It's more like his body is a tire, slowly deflating, but reinflating every time he breathes in. There's something too in the way Louis talks, like he taught himself to speak again as an adult after a terrible but clever accident. But Edgar has known him since he was 6, since they were both in school together in their opening grade year. As the years have gone on, it has become more disturbing than it was to begin with, to him, to those who remember. And Louis is also pale enough that even through the smoke, it takes Edgar a moment to notice the barest hints of a mask around Mr. Swan's eye. And as good neighbors, Mr. Swan continues, I think it is in our best interest to discuss community developments. Hmm? Louis leads Edgar into the center of the mist, into a room that seems to be ever expanding with fog. There is the delicate sound of animals, as though on an ark. What are you doing, Louis? Edgar asks. Mr. Swan, please. Louis, Edgar corrects. Edgar doesn't notice, with that correction, that Louis has embedded his sharp nails into the palm of his own skin to keep himself from overreacting. His hand shakes, and he must command his body not to strike Edgar across his visage. But what does Louis truly want? What is he planning? And is this the same kind of mask as the one Edgar found outside of Rage's apartment? What spell is Julie using Rage for as a sacrifice? And what lengths will Ben go to in order not to sacrifice his privacy to his younger brother's questions? The only way to find out those answers and more is to continue on your journey, dear listeners, with me. The world of Surf City might be wild and wicked, but it may also be blessed and bountiful. Mostly, though, it is incredible in its humanity, and soon there'll be more to learn. See you then. Surf City is an audio work of John McDonald and John McDonald Productions. It is meant for entertainment purposes only and is not meant to advise anyone on lifestyle, health, or spiritual philosophical issues of their any time. All opinions expressed are held by the characters and in some cases the creator of Surf City and Surf City Donuts, John McDonald.